have Kate Warman back with us, dating expert and coach, to talk about red flags versus deal breakers in a relationship. Now, there is a big difference between red flags and deal breakers. So as women, we need to be very aware and be able to recognize what is a deal breaker versus a red flag. Because red flags can be worked on, you know, potentially worked on, but deal breakers are just, run for your life.
The thing is, because we are always going to be works in process. So we have to accept that sometimes, you know, people at the end of the day don't really know how to do relationships all that well. Most people don't. So if you recognize some red flags, give your partner an opportunity, if they want to actually work on those things. If they're showing the desire to actually learn and grow. And in that process, be curious and observant and watch if those red flags actually do change over time. Maybe they become yellow flags, and then maybe it becomes a green flag and it goes away completely. So make sure to watch and learn and grow, because some things can be worked on.
Yes. So let's talk about some absolute deal breakers where no matter what, if this is going on, you need to end the relationship immediately.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so the first absolute deal breaker is any sort of cheating or abuse in the relationship. Just gotta end it. Final, goodbye.
Yes.
Bye, Felicia, like yesterday.
Boy, bye.
No, seriously, and I know this is really hard, ladies, because I'll tell you what, I've been in relationships, I've been cheated on, and I've been abused. And I also want to say, not just physical abuse is encapsulated under the category of abuse. There can also be emotional abuse. There can also be verbal abuse. And in fact, emotional abuse is sometimes really hard to spot. So if your man is constantly gaslighting you, which is a term for emotional abuse, basically making you feel guilty all the time for everything, saying you're crazy, or you're making things up, or you constantly do this, you constantly do that, that's a form of emotional abuse. And that has to really be recognized as that, no
way.
A lot of times, just goodbye.
You know, another thing too is, especially if you yourself are a Christian woman and you desire to have a Christian marriage, you cannot date a guy that doesn't have a strong relationship in Christ. I can't tell you how many friends I have that have done what's called missionary dating, if you've ever heard of this. It's basically if you are dating a guy who's not a Christian, like doesn't go to church, doesn't grow in his walk with God, and your hope is that you will be a great example and you will lead him to the Lord. But this is a deal breaker, ladies. You cannot put your heart on the line to missionary date someone. Love him as a friend, help him as a friend, but don't put your heart on the line to make that happen. So just have that be for you yourself. If you're a Christian woman, that unfortunately has got to be a deal breaker. If the man's not walking with the Lord, you can't move forward in that relationship.
If that's one of your strong values, ladies, do exactly what Sarah said. If you're okay with that not being your strong value, then sure. But if you are a Christian woman and you hold that really close to you as a very strong value, take it from us, you have to be evenly yoked.
Yes.
You can't date a non-believer.
So those are two what we would call absolute deal breakers, but then there are other forms of deal breakers as well too.
So another deal breaker could be uncontrolled anger. Now, anger, it doesn't have to be a scary emotion. We can be angry. There is such thing as healthy anger, but uncontrolled anger, like somebody who just flies off the handle, who is extremely reactionary over and over and over again. This ultimately shows a real lack of self-control. And a lot of times, uncontrolled anger often leads into abuse. That's a precursor sign that abuse is probably going to happen. So for me, a deal breaker is absolutely uncontrolled anger. I'm like, nope, I gotta go.
No way. You know, another form that would be a deal breaker in a relationship is if a man is really controlling. So let me give you an example of this. I was not even dating this guy, okay? We were just seeing each other. I was in my early 20s. And what I found out is when at the very beginning stages, he actually found the password to my Facebook, my phone, and broke in and read all of my messages, read all of my texts. I mean, just like crazy stuff that's never happened to me before, and honestly hasn't happened since. But I remember I was so freaked out, I called my dad to tell him what happened. And my dad goes, Sarah, you don't need to walk from this relationship. You need to run. You need to run from this relationship, because if this man is already trying to control your life this much and you're not even dating him, what would he do if you were actually his girlfriend, or even worse, his wife? How would he try to control you if you were his wife? So I took my dad's advice and I ran.
Run, Forrest, run.
Run away.
Seriously. That also can turn into abuse, control, honestly.
Yes, totally.
That's awful. And it shows that maybe that person has some insecurity issues.
Oh,
Let me be
massive
real.
insecurities.
Yeah. So a third deal breaker that could be possible, and this one isn't so absolute, but I think it's a deal breaker personally, is that if you want two totally different things out of your lives. So let me give you an example. If the person you're with wants to be a missionary in Africa and you feel called to staying in a city and having a full-time career, those are two totally different lives, and that could ultimately be a deal breaker for you. Or another example, if you want kids and the person you're married or you're trying to think of marrying doesn't want kids, that's also going to be a deal breaker because ultimately you guys don't really want two similar lives. So I would say that's probably not going to really work healthily.
Yeah, so Kate always says a good question to ask yourself is, if this person were to never change, would I still want to marry them? So
Never
ladies,
change. Yep.
the challenge for you this week is to ask yourself that question. If the man that I'm with right now, if you're dating somebody, if they were to never change in that certain area, would you want to marry them? Because if the answer is no, it may be time to consider ending that relationship.